Welcome to another episode of the Sports Media Professionals Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Springer. On today's episode, I'll be joined by Ashley Behabetz. She's the game presentation coordinator for the San Antonio Spurs and has a multitude of experiences dating back to the Rockies as well in MLB also. And on the episode, she'll talk about her experiences both as a college athlete and also in the sports media professional world as well. Enjoy. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me this morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing pretty well. It's March Madness, crazy things are happening, but I'm really excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. And first off, could you just give us a little idea of what you do right now, what your job is, and sort of like a day-to-day of what your current position is?
Yeah, so I'm currently the presentation coordinator for the Spurs. So game presentation coordinator is my official title. It's funny, some organizations call it game operations and some call it game presentation. So my title is game presentation. Our department is game operations, but essentially we run the show within the game. So national anthem, timeouts, any kind of entertainment, video board, interaction, sponsorship, activations, things of that nature. So my day-to-day, I basically plan the script or format, as we call it, that runs every single game. So from the time doors open to the final PA farewell of the night, I am scripting everything that happens except for the actual basketball part of the game.
I feel like a lot of people maybe don't understand like the amount of time or work that goes into something like that. Like people just show up to a game and, they're there to watch the game, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of stuff obviously that goes in beyond that. So do you think a lot of people really understand that, or is that something that, maybe you feel like fans don't really appreciate enough?
No, I think the idea is that you want fans to not think about you, but they want to leave thinking how entertained they were and how engaged they were with the game as a whole. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea of our department, is not necessarily like wanting the credit and like wanting to take away from the actual sport or the players or the team. But at the end of the day, we want to give a little bit more of an entertainment value or an experience value than if they would have come just to purely watch basketball. So there is a ton of work that goes into it, but I think it's all very strategic and hoping that it's entertaining enough that it flows well with the game as well.
Now, you've worn a lot of different hats in terms of sports, broadcasting, media, game day production, things like that. How do you think all that stuff has kind of prepared you for your current position and what you do right now?
Sure. I think this position it's a very stressful position in terms of you're managing multiple groups, multiple entertainers, hosts, what's going on in the game, as well as, making sure that marketing initiatives, as well as sponsorship activations and anything else that is needing to get addressed during a game gets addressed or gets into the scripted format and gets worked in. So I think being able to, balance a lot of different crazy things is essential to being good at my job. And that's pretty much what I've done up until this point, whether that was balancing multiple jobs at one time, working in baseball and then working another job in the morning, or bouncing between multiple sports jobs. Just kind of being able to balance a lot of chaos, I think, has definitely been a major payoff for this position. I did similar work to what I do now at a part-time level for the spring training facility for the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. And that was definitely more hectic. We had less staff, but we had still a really good show. So I think being able to do a lot on a very small scale with a small budget is now so much easier being able to do that on the big scale with a huge budget. So it's pretty fun.
You mentioned the stress. I wanted to ask you about that. How do you sort of manage the stress, especially with like a work-life balance situation? Because obviously, in sports, it's not your usual 9 to 5. You're going to have crazy hours. You're going to have long nights. How do you manage that sort of work-life balance with the stress of the job as well?
I try to, but I can't say I'm always successful. Sometimes work life wins, I guess, over work and personal life. But I try my best to, if there's a game really late, I'll try to take, the morning to be able to kind of recuperate and get things done that I personally need to do, and then, move on to the next game or whatever that might be. I think Younger, when I was younger in my career, it was all work, all sports, all the time, didn't matter. And so I really hit a point where it's like I was starting to get burnt out. I was starting to get tired. I was feeling like I was missing out on like life moments that maybe some of my friends were having, or, just different things that like I couldn't go to or couldn't attend or couldn't be a part of because of, work, or I'd committed to a game, or I'd committed to whatever. And so in this position, I've been really lucky to be able to have, very specific responsibilities with just the Spurs. And so anything outside of that, not necessarily with SSNE, but, additional work, freelance, or additional games, I've kind of tried to make it a point to say like no, and not a no because I don't want to do it, but a no because I gotta, take my personal time and make that a priority. So I think just making personal time when I do have it, and when I have the opportunities to take it when I probably could work, has definitely been the biggest stress reliever so far.
Earlier in your career or your life, did you ever have a moment where you thought, okay, yes, sports, like sports media, sports broadcasting, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like, was there ever a moment where it kind of clicked for you? Like, okay, this is like what I want to do with my career or my life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think so. Growing up, I knew I wanted to work in sports, but I wanted to work more like media relations, communications avenues. And so I went to school for it. I got a couple internships for it. And then I got through, experiences in communications, media relations, PR. And I was like, this is not for me. Like, I don't totally enjoy this. Um, and I had gotten an internship with 850 KOA, which is the radio broadcast partner of the Colorado Rockies, Denver Broncos, and a couple of universities in Colorado. And they threw me on the air, and I was just like winging it, like having fun. And my boss at that time, he was like, "You're really good at this. Like, are you sure you don't want to do this?" And at that time, I was still kind of like, "No, I think I want to do media relations. I like stats, I like communications, like baseball's, kind of my jam. That's the route I want to go." And he was like, "Well, I think you should really consider this. Like, you're really good. You have a voice. You have the talent and the knowledge." And so I kind of like, it wasn't like one moment that clicked for me, but it was like I had done the internship at the radio station. Then I went and did a communications internship and just was miserable in the communications internship. And after that internship ended, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I want to go back to sports broadcasting. And then from there, it was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm committed. I made a fake demo reel. I started reaching out to people. I started networking. I was doing things with the intention of being on, television or radio or whatever that might be. And that was when I kind of started that journey.
Yeah, I do feel like, part of working in sport media is it's like a trial and error. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to jump in and see if you enjoy it or not. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's really interesting. And kind of furthermore, when you think about your career and kind of where you've been, were there maybe moments where you did have a crossroads, or maybe where you thought, hey, am I sure this is where I want to go? Or did you have any situations like that where you were maybe had to question yourself a little bit or challenge yourself in any way?
Yeah, I had a major crossroads in 2018. I worked for the Rockies for 3 or 4 years. I was on their promo team. Then I got promoted to I guess it wasn't necessarily promoted, but I got moved into their hosting role. So then I became a host for them. And then the following year in 2017, the television network that broadcast the Rockies came to me and was like, "We need a part-time sideline reporter. We think you might be a good fit. We know you're really green, but we'd love to try you out." So I ended up working as a sideline reporter for roughly 40 games for AT&T Sports Network. And they were previously Root Sports Rocky Mountain, and they got bought out by AT&T Sports Network halfway through our season. And looking back, it was like, I can't believe they took a chance on me. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was really just truly faking it until I made it. And I grew a ton that summer. From like my very first stand up, I was so nervous. I think I called the pitcher the wrong name. Like, I was just a mess. To the end of the season, where I really felt confident in what I was doing, in the relationships that I was building in the clubhouse, I grew it a ton. And you could see it, and so could my superiors. And then that following season, I was like, okay, I'm locked in. This is it. Like, I'm gonna get to move in. I'm gonna be a more full-time sideline reporter for them, and that's where I want to see my growth. And then as Root Sports had gotten bought out by AT&T Sports Network, my position was eliminated. They ended up kind of restructuring. They did fill a new sideline reporter, but it wasn't my direction. And at that point, I was like, well, like that was the dream. Like I had it and now it's gone. So I spent most of 2018 really like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm just here. And at the time I was still hosting for the Rockies. I was still doing some high school coverage. It's not like I had like lost my job. But I had felt like I had gotten to my goal and then lost it and couldn't get it back. And so at that point, I was like, well, you know, I need to be realistic in what I'm good at and where I can go and where I can use, you know, my talents. And if that is on camera, great. And if it's behind the scenes or somewhere else in sports, if I'm happy, that's what matters. And so that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to ease up on pursuing just being on camera or just being a sideline reporter, and maybe broadening my horizons and opening my eyes a little bit to being open to experiences that maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do a year ago or 2 years ago. So I think that was a point where I was like, okay, do I stand firm in trying to be on camera, and at that point I felt really defeated, or do I, you know, choose something else? Do I quit sports altogether? And so it's kind of like, no, I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna keep working hard and just, you know, see where it takes me.
In your eyes, kind of building off of that, in your eyes, what kind of attributes do you think makes someone a sports media professional? What do you think is a key trait of somebody who wants to get into this industry, who's somebody who wants to be a part of sports media, sports broadcasting, and things like that?
Yeah, I think someone who has a work ethic. Like I think the work ethic is number one, because it's not for the faint of heart. Like it's not for somebody that's just looking for, you know, a job is a job and then I want to do other stuff. And it, you know, it really engulfs your life and it really engulfs, you know, who you are. And so I think that's the most important thing, is having somebody who has a work ethic to want to do it and has the drive to do it. And then I think the second thing is just like a passion for it. Because like if you don't have the passion for it, like, it's going to be miserable. Like it's not going to be fun. But if that's your passion and that's what you want to do, spending, you know, 10 days on the road for a basketball trip or whatever that might be, you get done with it and you're exhausted, but you're like, that was so cool. Like that was exactly what I wanted. I had so much fun. So, you know, having the passion and the work ethic to do those things, I think are the top two things. And that'll get you through a lot of the hard times. Like when you're, you know, on a bus for 18 hours or whatever, having to do something as a part-timer, you know, that you might not want to do in sports, but it got your foot in the door and you got to do this job, whatever that might be. That work ethic and that passion will get you through a lot of those hard points to get you to the points where you're like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've kind of been talking about maybe the negative sides of sports, but I mean, what are some of the positives? You know, I mean, what are some ways in which you feel like it's positively impacted you or the people you've met or see your personal life? I mean, what are some of the positive aspects of working in this industry?
Oh, there's a ton. I think for sure the relationships that I have, like, you know, I've met people from my very first internship all the way to now, and all across the way, I've met some really, really great people. And not necessarily just for like networking purposes, for who they can introduce me to or what they can do for me, but like just how much they care about me and like they're invested in my career and my you know, growth. And just, you know, how much I can lean on them if I need help or just, you know, want to talk or just develop really good friendships. I mean, I think the relationships and the people that you meet across the way is definitely a huge positive. I mean, I still talk to so many people from so many different, you know, jobs or chapters in my life. And that's a huge positive. And then I think just looking back and like thinking about some of the experiences that I've gotten to see, you know, I got to see Todd Helton's last interview before he retired. And he, you know, teared up and cried. I saw Ichiro's 2000th hit, 3000th hit. I can't remember.
He's got a lot of hits.
Yeah, a lot of hits. I saw his most biggest, a lot of hits. You know, I've seen like close to no-nos. I've gotten to see David Ortiz hit a home run in his last year at Fenway. Like there's just been some really great moments that I think that's exactly what I wanted. You know, when I was, you know, 18, 19, trying to figure out what I was going to do in college, like those were the things I wanted to do. Like I saw myself being a part of sports moments and seeing these things for real and being a part of them, more than just like a fan. So I think the experiences and the relationships that I've had have definitely been the most positives to come out of working in sports for sure.
Yeah, let's wind back the clock a little bit. Think about, your first experience working in sport media or sports broadcasting, whatever it was. What was that like, and how do you feel like that kind of prepared you to make those steps to where you are now?
Yeah, I think my very first my first internship, again, I like, it's like, I don't know why they thought I could do this. I was, I think 20. I was a junior in college. And they gave me this like 1980s microphone with a tape recorder to it. And they're like, go into the clubhouse and like do post-game interviews. And I was like, what? Like, you're just gonna send me in there? Like, are you sure? And they were like, yeah, just follow the group of media guys. They'll go to the different players. They'll go to the starting pitcher. They'll go to the guy who won it, whatever. Just hold your microphone out, get in there and get the interview. So it's like, okay. They threw me in. And like the first couple of games, I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, I just like couldn't make eye contact, couldn't look up. I just like stayed in my little bubble with the rest of the reporters and like moved around. And then the next day, or the next week, Broncos had OTAs. And so they're like, we want you to go do Broncos as well. And so I was like, okay, like, yeah, I've done Rockies. Like, I can definitely do Broncos. Yeah. So the same mentor that was kind of like, I think you can do sports broadcasting. He was the one who sent me into the Broncos locker room for the first time. And he was like, it's just like Rockies. Just go in there, follow the media, and you're good to go. And I was like, okay, yeah, great. They open the doors. There's like 50 media members that just go crashing into their locker room. Shoulder pads, equipment is everywhere. Like, there's just giant men everywhere. And like the media is just, I mean, crazy. They're going after all these different players. And so there wasn't like one group to follow. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to look for the players' names I recognize, for the guys that I know are coming back. I'm going to follow them. And it was like, I remember I was like on top of a locker. Like, I had my arm above somebody's shoulder with the microphone in it to get it into the interview. It was just like, and that was like when my eyes opened and I was like, oh my God, like this is a whole new world. And I think those experiences, like just truly like being thrown into the deep end, has made me feel like now, like I can conquer anything. Like I can go into any locker room or clubhouse or nail any interview or talk to any, major professional athlete and feel like I know what I'm doing. Because at that time I was thrown in, didn't know what I was doing, and I made it. I swam. So it's like now it's sink or swim, and I can swim through anything, I feel like.
All right. So if you could from this moment right now, go back in time and stop yourself before you went in that first Rockies clubhouse and just like have a conversation or just tell yourself something. What would you say? What would you say to pass you before you stepped into that clubhouse for the first time?
Just like, I don't know, don't be scared. I think because I was scared, especially being, the only female in an entire male clubhouse. And then in addition to an entire male media base, like I was definitely nervous, and I didn't feel like I had a place there. And I think that's what I would say is don't be scared, you belong. Like that's 100% what I would say. Cause I was definitely scared. And I always kind of had this feeling that it was like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. And it was like, looking back, why would I feel like that? I had the job, I had a job to do, and I belonged there. So I think that's what I would tell myself. Don't be scared and you belong.
Do you feel like more recently, I mean, like you said, you were the only woman in the clubhouse of the media. Do you feel like more recently that's with the more women being in sports, does that make a difference, or do you take pride in that, basically being that in that situation?
Definitely. Yeah, I do. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't want to be like called out for being the only woman or for doing, something a girl only the only girl has done. But I definitely think like it helps to know that like I've done it and there's other women that can do it. And there's other women that have done it. I think she was a sideline reporter, but she was also kind of a host, pregame, postgame show host for the Rockies. And she really mentored me. And so I watched a lot about how she, developed relationships with the athletes based on like, their character, and it didn't matter about gender. And so I really tried to emulate that, because at the end of the day, like you're doing a job, whether you're male or female, and you should gain the same respect. So I think just going in and trying to put my gender aside and knowing the knowledge that I have and the job I have to do is, been a big help. And I think in those times, looking back, like it didn't even cross my mind really that like I was a girl. It was just like I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah. Now you were a college athlete. You played. Do you feel like that playing aspect kind of further push you into something that you want to do sports, or like how do you think playing a sport really helped you kind of decide that this was where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I think it definitely had an impact. Like when I think I was in like third grade or fourth grade, and I was like, I loved baseball and softball. Like I loved playing ball and going and watching baseball or watching baseball on TV. That's like all I did. And so, naive third grader, I was like, I'm going to be the first girl to play in the MLB. Like, you just wait. Like, I can do it. I can do it. I'm good enough. Like, And I remember my best friend's dad was like, no, you're not. I was like, and I got like so offended that he would tell me that. He was like, you don't understand. Like, it's a men's sport. Like, it's a men's sport. You're never going to play in it. Like, you don't get it. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm not listening to you. So like, I went through my whole life just knowing like I wanted to be a part of baseball. And so like playing softball growing up, like that was the closest thing I could do. Getting to college and wanting to play college softball, again, that was the closest thing I could do to going pro or like continuing my career. So that's what I did. And then after that, I was like, I still want to be around professional baseball. So this is what I'm going to do. That's what I love. And, I think at that time it was just like this, that was my passion and that's what I enjoyed being around. So why would I not want to make that my career? And why would I not want to spend my days like doing something I love or being involved in something that I love? And so I think that was really the guiding principle the whole way is that, I love the sport. I loved playing it or, playing as close to it as I could for as long as I could. And then somehow make a career out of it because that's what I loved. And so now, I mean, it's just sports in general. I think being an athlete has definitely, you get to see a side of sports or watch sports, I guess, a little bit differently than maybe you would if you hadn't played. And so now being able to look at basketball or baseball or whatever sport that I'm covering and knowing like as an athlete, it's just a completely different experience. I think that's definitely helped my career as a whole is kind of seeing it through an athlete's eyes, I guess.
Yeah. There was a time when I was a little kid when I wanted to play for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then I got tackled in Pee Wee football, and I was like, oh boy, maybe not so much. So I understand that, but I'm not built. I wasn't really built for the NFL, I guess, but maybe another life.
For sure.
But one final question for you. You talked about what you would say to yourself if you were to go back in time now, but right now, if you met somebody else who was interested in breaking into the industry or, a college freshman or somebody who was looking for their first opportunity, what would you say to them right now? What would you say to them today in 2022?
I think, just be persistent and don't be easily discouraged, because I think there was a lot of moments in my career so far where I was told no, or I didn't get the job or, X, Y, and Z, that I could have said, okay, fine, this isn't for me, I'm going to quit. And I think it would have been really easy to do so. And now looking back, it's like, I kept going and I kept pushing, and now I'm in a position that I absolutely love. I'm with an organization that I absolutely love. And it's like all of those hardships and no's and keep pushing and stay persistent, don't give up moments led to where I am now. So I think just stay persistent and don't give up. Like if you know this is what you want to do, it's going to get hard before it gets good. But if you have the persistence and the passion and want to do it, like you'll get to a good point where you're happy, where you look back and you're like, I can't believe I'm in this position. I can't believe I get to do this every day for my job.
Well, okay. Actually, I lied. One more question, actually. Okay, so now picture yourself in the future. When you look back, is that what you'll think about? Is, that you didn't give up, that you got what you wanted?
Most definitely. And I think now that I'm a little bit older, it's less of like, don't give up, but like, just keep working hard. Like I'm just a firm believer that regardless of the job that you're in or the role that you're in or whatever that might be, if you work hard and give it your all, like that effort is not going to be wasted. Like it's going to be shown in your next job or your next interview or whatever. Something that you learned in that position because you gave it your all is going to be beneficial 10 years down the road or 15 years down the road. So yeah, I think I definitely will look back and know that like I just didn't give up, and that's what produced such a good career. At least I hope.
I certainly hope so too. Ashley, thank you so much for joining the show today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.